Hello, guys, and welcome back. I am going to be predicting the week one schedule for the NFL. So, without further ado, here it goes. So, we start off with the Buffalo Bills taking on the Jets in Buffalo. And in this one, unfortunately, I have Buffalo winning. I like the Jets defense, and I've said that before, but they don't really have much of an offense. Josh McCown kind of worries me. I think eventually his title of being that stopgap quarterback veteran that knows it. I just eventually I think it's just gonna diminish. I don't think he's gonna be even worth starting. So um, I don't think the Jets can do enough. They're very young, and I think the Bills get the win. And really, because the Bills have Tyrod Taylor and the Jets are starting Josh McCown. So, um, pick number two, and I'm not picking against the spread or anything. Just straight ahead, picking the games. Um, Chicago versus the Atlanta Falcons. I am actually going to stick with Atlanta here. Uh, Normally, week one, you go by the best team on paper. You don't really worry about who plays at home and whatnot. The Falcons are definitely the better team on paper. I think Chicago will be interesting this year. I think they have some underrated talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Um, but they're not playing Mitchell Trubisky. They're playing Mike Glennon. Glennon will be all right, but Trubisky has that extra playmaker in him, playmaking ability that I think he could make this game interesting. I expect the Falcons defense, not the Falcons offense, the Falcons defense, to really make a name for themselves week one. Um, so yeah, that's who I have winning that, and then we go on to Cincinnati versus Baltimore. It's in Cincinnati, and I am going to go with the Ravens. A lot of people have the Bengals really high because they got Joe Mixon and they got John Ross, but John Ross is hurt. Joe Mixon apparently is the third guy, and I'm not a huge fan of the Cincinnati Bengals. I think eventually they're going to hit that, and I said that in the prediction video. I think eventually they're going to hit that wall where they have to fire Marvin Lewis. So I'm definitely going to go with Baltimore. Joe Flacco's back. I don't love it either, but I don't think Cincinnati is amazing by any means. And I think Terrence West will be enough. As long as they can, run the ball. And the Ravens' defense isn't bad. So I'm going to go with the Ravens in this one. Probably a close game, but Ravens. This one is Pittsburgh at Cleveland. I am taking Pittsburgh all the way. I believe the spread had him at 9.5. I just think Pittsburgh right now, on paper, they don't have many needs. The really interesting thing is they went out and they traded for J.J. Wilcox to get that third safety in the building. They signed Joe Hayden. They traded for a tight end in Vance McDonald. I mean, they checked kind of all the boxes. They even drafted another receiver, Juju Smith-Schuster. And they drafted another running back and another quarterback. A quarterback, hopefully, they believe will be the franchise quarterback when Ben leaves. And if Bell decides to leave, hopefully James Conner, a guy I liked a lot in the draft, can take over. But yeah, I mean, the Steelers have a lot, and they just signed Stephon Tuitt to a nice deal. They have Ryan Shazier, and I'm a huge fan of Javon Hargrave. So, as much as I like Deshaun Kaiser and what Hugh Jackson is trying to do in Cleveland, it's been reported that Myles Garrett won't play, and he might not play for a while. So, if there were any chances, I think Myles Garrett coming off the edge, forcing maybe a fumble or two, could really help them. But I definitely have Pittsburgh in this, and I think it's not really going to be close. Um, just hope Kaiser doesn't turn into a turnover fest, because that could be brutal to watch. And next, I have Arizona at Detroit. I'm picking Detroit. I know a lot of people are sour on Detroit. They don't think Matt Stafford was worth a contract. They're starting Greg Robinson at left tackle. Look, I get it, but Matt Stafford was in some cases worth the contract, number one. And the Rams actually won games last year with Greg Robinson at left tackle, believe it or not. So it can be done. They actually beat the Seahawks. So there you go. But no, I think Arizona added some nice pieces. Buda Baker comes to mind, and Hassan Reddick. But I really, really, really like the Lions in this game. I think Matthew Stafford is going to have his way. It's in Detroit, which, again, I know I didn't. I was just telling you not to put a premium on where they play, but it is in Detroit, and they have Amir Abdullah, and they have Theo Riddick, and one of the interesting guys, they have Kenny Galladay from Northern Illinois, who I think is a player to watch out for in the red zone. Marvin Jones and Golden Tate, and hopefully Eric Ebron comes into his own this year. Again, once Taylor Decker gets healthy, this team's going to be nice. Right now, Greg Robinson playing left tackle, not really where the Lions fans wanted this season to start. But I still have the Lions in this game, and I think Carson Palmer this year, I think he's going to struggle. I think that's ultimately why the Cardinals are going to lose games like this. So definitely the Lions in this one. And next up on the docket, we have Jacksonville at Houston. I have Houston in a close one. I think Jacksonville has what it takes to win the game where I mean, we were just talking about this on paper. Jacksonville has a great defense. They added Calais Campbell. They have plenty of guys. I mean, just it's kind of ridiculous. Dante Fowler. They brought Bouye in there, AJ Bouye, to go with Jalen Ramsey. They have Telvin Smith. They have Paul Posluszny, Malik Jackson. So, I mean, they have all these guys, and it's kind of like eventually this defense is going to hit its stride. I don't know if it will this year, although it seems like every year it's like they're really good on paper and it just doesn't add up. But I do think they'll keep this close, and I think Blake Bortles will actually play well enough to win the game. But ultimately, I think Tom Savage, just his game managing ability, he's not going to force turnovers, for the Texans. So I think, if he just holds on to the ball, has Dante Foreman, Lamar Miller run the ball, stays conservative, this Texans defense is going to do everything. They are so talented, one of the most talented defenses in recent 5 years. But I definitely have the Texans pulling out a close win. Maybe it could be something like 13-10. It's gonna be. They both have really good defenses, so it could be interesting. Next up, I have Oakland at Tennessee, and I'm picking Tennessee. I have them going 14-2. Marcus Mariota versus Derek Carr, two of the top tier, next generation quarterbacks. I just think this offense in Tennessee is going to be way too much. Oakland's secondary is disastrous, and it is good as Oakland's offense is. Marshawn Lynch is still somewhat of a question mark since he's been out of the league for a year. And then you have to look at the fact that, most of their games last year were won, in the last possession or overtime. I don't think it's going to get that. I think Tennessee can win by 2 scores. Their defense is good. It's actually good. Their secondary is good. Oakland's secondary is terrible, and I think Mariota is going to definitely take advantage of it. And his obnoxious touchdown to interception ratio, which is 100 touchdowns to 0 interceptions in the red zone, I believe that continues to, roll along, and the Titans make a statement week 1. So I have the Titans winning that game. Moving on, I have the Philadelphia Eagles playing Washington, and in that game, I actually have Philly winning. Washington seems like they could start off the season really slow. In preseason, if it's any indication, they definitely looked like they were missing Sean McVay. They looked like they were missing Pierre Garcon. They looked like they were missing Deshaun Jackson. Look, Terrell Pryor is phenomenal talent. I think he's more talented than both those guys that left, but they had both of those guys. And the way they're really banking on first rounder, from last year, Josh Doxson, to come in, who I really like, but I mean, he barely played last season, so it's kind of harsh to throw him in there and hope he's the a top guy this season. Um, I don't love the Redskins this year. I think their offense is going to struggle without McVay, and I think their pass rush was non-existent in preseason. Um, so I'm definitely going to go with the Eagles. I think Carson Wentz and the fact that Lane Johnson's there. Carson Wentz went 5-0 with Lane Johnson, and his only losses came when he was suspended. So I think Lane Johnson's going to help big time. The Eagles secondary is still suspect, and this could keep this as like a high-scoring shootout of a game. In the end, I'm taking the Eagles. I believe they can generate, pressure. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham. I believe those guys will be, the keys to victory. So I have the Eagles. And next, I have the Indianapolis Colts versus my Los Angeles Rams. And I'm picking the Rams. And, before you get on me for being a bandwagon, it's quite obvious. Andrew Luck is not playing, and the Colts. If Andrew Luck didn't play the entire year, I don't know if the Colts win 4 games. We saw it the year Peyton Manning didn't play an entire year, and the Colts were 2-14 under Curtis Painter. So I think Scott Tolzien, solid backup. He looked good for a quarter against Pittsburgh last year, but he's just not going to cut it. And I think the Rams' offense is better than people are going to give it credit for. Everyone's saying this is going to be a close game. I have a 34-17 win. I think this defense can cause a couple turnovers. They will give up, a couple deep plays probably to T.Y. Hilton, Kamar Aiken. So, I have the Rams winning that. I just think there's too much there. Aaron Donald will not play. He'll likely be back for next week. So, that's a shame, but I still think they're going to have no problem winning this one. Moving on, Seattle plays Green Bay. I'm pretty sure I just saw that Brian Bulaga was ruled out, or he's questionable for the game. And he's kind of a big deal. He's the right tackle. So, as much as I love Aaron Rodgers, I don't love the Packers this year. I think they get 10. I think they get to 10 wins solely off the fact that Aaron Rodgers is such a great quarterback. I don't think they really improved a whole lot. I think Ahmad Brooks' signing is a little overrated in a sense. And I think, this year I can't stand Seattle as a Rams fan. But you just have to look at what they've done. I mean, they've only improved. And, it's a shame that they lost George Fant, who, he wasn't very good last year, but it seemed like he was really coming on in the preseason. And they really liked him in camp. So, to lose him that torn ACL, they're going to have to figure out a way to protect Russell Wilson's blind side. But even so, Russell Wilson has the ability to escape and basically turn into a magician with the football. So I have the Seattle Seahawks in probably a closer game, maybe a 3-point game. I think Rodgers is the most talented quarterback I've ever watched. I just don't think that Ted Thompson has surrounded him enough with enough pieces, and that is where I have Russell Wilson winning this game in Lambeau. So next I have Carolina at San Francisco. I have Carolina right for now. I could definitely see San Francisco winning this game. San Francisco comes in with like limited tape on the new head coach Kyle Shanahan and just what he's done. This team had about 15 players return from last season's opening day. So it's crazy. There's so much turnover. It's like a completely different team. And I mean, you gotta look at the fact that Cam Newton's coming off of shoulder surgery. In the end, though, I think the Panthers are just a better football team in this at this time. I think the 49ers' time will be coming probably in the next 2 to 3 years, especially with a really good coach. So, we'll see then. But I think it's safe to say Carolina will win. I just think if there was an upset, I would not be shocked. Moving on, the New York Giants play the Dallas Cowboys. I have the New York Giants. I don't see how this young Cowboys secondary is going to stop Sterling Shepard, Brandon Marshall, Evan Ingram. Yes, I didn't mention Odell Beckham Jr. because if he doesn't play, that's still an unbelievably talented group of receivers. If he does play, yikes. Dallas has no chance. Dak Prescott's really good, and Ezekiel Elliott will play, and he's really good. But people just discount the fact that the Giants' defense is phenomenal, and they just got even better. Basically, turning another person's trash into their treasure. Ross Cockrell from the Steelers last year finished in the top 15 of all cornerbacks per Pro Football Focus. So he is a very good cornerback, and he comes and joins two top 5 rated Pro Football Focus corners in Janoris Jenkins and Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie, on top of Eli Apple, who's a former first-round pick. And then you have the best safety in the league, arguably, Landon Collins. So I think the Giants are going to have no problem, shutting down Dak Prescott, and Ezekiel Elliott is going to have a hard time, as he did when they faced the Giants last year when they were swept. I just don't think, even in Dallas, I have the Giants winning. Moving along, the postponed matchup between Miami and Tampa Bay will be Week 11. So it's postponed. I can't make a pick on it. I won't make a pick on it because I don't know what the teams are going to look like Week 11. I mean, if Jameis Winston, were to go down before then, and I picked, Tampa Bay, it'd be inaccurate. So, Monday night, we have New Orleans heading to Minnesota. I feel like the NFL planned this game. It's just such a coincidence. I have Minnesota. I think Sam Bradford is going to, solidify this offense. He's going to stay just not really a game manager because he's a better version of a game manager. He has the ability to really, throw the football down the field. And I think he's going to do a nice job with Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Cook is going to kind of, send the FU to Adrian Peterson. Peterson recently in a press conference, or not press conference, but in one of the interviews he did, he said he can't wait to stick it to his old team. His old team is pretty good to him, I would say, and so I would definitely expect Dalvin Cook to kind of stick it to old Adrian Peterson. The Saints have Drew Brees, and I think they're an improving defense, and they're going to compete this year, but I think the Vikings eke it out with the younger defense, the better defense, more experienced defense. And their offense is pretty good in itself, and they have the better running game in Dalvin Cook, and then you have Latavius Murray, and Jerick McKinnon. So I would definitely, I'm going to go with Minnesota. If Breeze, is somehow able to push the Saints past Minnesota in Minnesota, I'd kind of be shocked because as great as Breeze is, I just don't think that, just like in Minnesota, and I think this Minnesota defense is really talented. I think Sam Bradford is really talented, so that's why I'm leaning the Vikings. And then the last game, we have the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Denver Broncos, and in this game, I actually picked the Broncos. Here's the thing. The Broncos are starting Trevor Siemian, who started last year at quarterback. He's not people's favorite, and I can understand that. But Trevor Siemian gets the job done if you have a good defense. the Broncos have a good defense. And Trevor Siemian has some great weapons in Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. Um, so I have the Broncos. I think the Chargers and Broncos. I think this game is a nice rivalry game to start this to end the week 1 of the season. I think that you're looking at probably a. I honestly think it could be a blowout. I mean, not a blowout. I think it could be a shootout. I think you're looking at Breeze and not Breeze. You're looking at Rivers, and then you're looking at the fact that uh, Denver can score. Just with their defense alone. Denver's run game too, I think, is also forgotten. They have Jamal Charles, C.J. Anderson, and then they have a guy that I really like in D'Angelo Henderson, who I think is a phenomenal shifty scat back that has the ability to actually start. I think C.J. Anderson's going to get the start, but I think Jamal Charles will be involved. So I think it'll be interesting. I would not be surprised if this is a shootout, but in the end, I go Denver. It's in Denver, and that's probably the one place if you had to say, yeah, that's a home field advantage, then Denver would be it. So those are my picks for week 1. I'll be doing this right before every Sunday, so I'm not going to include Thursday. Thursday games are just really hard to predict. They're just teams, they're coming off of like no rest. I would pick them normally, but I just figured I would record this every Saturday night, and then throw it out there on Sunday morning for you guys to agree, disagree, comment, show your concern, whatever. Thank you guys for watching. This is Jake Ellenbogen, and I'd love you guys to, if you enjoyed this video, to give it a thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy this video, please don't give it a thumbs down. Just tell me why at the bottom. If I maybe I say too much, boom, say it at the bottom. But in all seriousness, thank you guys for listening and watching, and I hope you enjoy NFL Sunday. It's been a while, and now it's time. We deserve it. So you guys enjoy, stay safe, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Peace.